Start of the race. Julian Majoub on the inside up front pole position makes another very good start. Good start from Ben Collins, and once again, as yesterday, it's a dreadful start from Mark Walker in the Darracq, but he did say how difficult it is to get off the line.
Well, he only makes one gear change all race, first to second thereafter. He stays in second for the remainder of the 5 laps, but I don't mind him falling back because we know that means he's going to be fighting way back through the order, and it's fabulous, isn't it, Alice?
Yeah, exactly. We got the view of the leader from now, or from behind the leader, but you're going to see Mark charge through the field as there's a move down the inside now. The number 23 is that? No, yeah, that's Christian Mann.
I think it's Julian, isn't it, who's come through, who was on pole, Julian Majoub earlier on, and he has grabbed the advantage.
He certainly has, and Mark Walker, I was just counting the cars down, he's back into 6th place, working his way forward, but that long pointed tail of the Sunbeam Indianapolis heading off into the distance. And remember, when Mark Walker got up with him, Mark had all the power, but Julian had the ability, the handling, and the ability to brake late. Not they have much in the way of braking any of these cars.
Alice, it's amazing watching them use these handbrake things on the outside of the cockpit, isn't it? So different.
There seems to be so much going on, and as Bruce touched on, we got the Mark as well. He leans, you can see he's using every inch of his body, and the car as well, having to pump with the fuel. There's so much going on. You can already see Mark making a move now through the field. He's not hanging back. He knows the fantastic race that he had between him and Julian earlier on, yesterday, where they were swapping places going down to Woodcote Corner.
So here it is. This is Mark Walker on the Darracq. This is one of the earliest cars that is out there from 1905, but it has a 25.5 litre V8 engine. From then, it was a land speed record car. It was one of the first ever cars to reach certain speeds, some 300 horsepower. One gear he uses all the way around, doesn't he? Once he's got going.
Gets off the line, brackets badly 2 days running, but look, he's coming back. But great start from Julian Majoub from pole position. And Ben Collins alongside, leaning out of that glorious blitz and bends to change gear as they go down towards Madgwick Corner. Madgwick's such a tricky corner. It's 2 apexes, and let's look at the rear of the Darracq. All the power, not all of the handling, it must be said. And really, when you go down, up and down, you look for the colour of the bodywork. There is no bodywork on the Darracq, so that stands out. And Mark is nothing if not brave.
I love the fact there's no bodywork though, because you can see everything working. You can see him, not the most comfortable seat there. It's like he's sitting in a funny shaped bucket, but you can really see how he's having to lean into the corners, and he's got nothing that's strapping him in. So he's literally got to engage every muscle of his body just to make sure he doesn't fall out.
Yeah, absolutely right. And he's coming up against a couple of cars now that it's going to make life a little bit more difficult. It's got the Alfa Romeo RLTF of Christopher Mann. That's a 1923 car. That's one of the youngest cars in this race, in fact, 1923. There it is, the Alfa Romeo. Looks more like a kind of racing car in some ways, doesn't it?
It really does, and the next age of racing, Alfa Romeo's had huge success. And the other red single-seater up there is, of course, one of the 2 Hudsons, the Super 6, the American cars in this race, both days being run very, very well indeed. Car 66 with James Collins, but up front and pulling clear, he was nearly 2 seconds clear at the end of the opening lap. Julian Majoub in that sort of alley-bodied Sunbeam Indianapolis at the front of the field. Bear in mind, that was racing in 1916. Extraordinary.
Ben Collins, you're looking at now in 2nd place in the Blitz and Bends, another land speed record car of its time. But also, he's being very effective going around the Goodwood circuit here. The car that's leading actually would have raced, or did race at Indianapolis. They started their racing in 1911. It was a few years later than that. But here we are watching Mark Walker, and he is getting a little bit closer to them. I think, Alice, he's got a chance, actually. He's beginning to close up on the next one. There is another chance to gain a place here.
Yeah, still a very short... Oh, someone has lost a tyre there. So we'll have a look to see who's lost that as it's parked up on the side of the road. But there's still 3 laps left to go. So that is enough time for Walker to still close the gap. It was around about this time where he started to really open up and close the gap with full throttle down the straight. You can see all the movement, all the body. It's a physical ride, I can imagine, for all these drivers.
Oh, it really is. And I was just thinking that for some of these cars, losing a tyre probably doesn't make much difference in terms of handling, because the tyres are very narrow, very, very solid. But Mark Walker's having to work his as hard as he can. Going into St Mary's, he's catching the 2nd place blitz and bends of Ben Collins. He's got past James Collins in the Hudson, and the target is just about to turn into the first part of Lavant up ahead, so we could have the battle rejoined with Julian Majoub, but he's going to have to get past Ben Collings very soon indeed. They've both got an awful lot of grunt, so out of Lavant, that's precisely what you want.
Here we go then. So this is the view from the second placed car, the Blitzen Benz. The camera on the back of it is looking at the man who's putting him under pressure. That is Mark Walker, who won yesterday, and again he's fighting his way through the field. Look at the straight line speed that it's got.
It's amazing. Me and Bruce are sat here waving our arms saying, look how much he's having to control the car. He's fighting with that wheel right now. So now he can get his head down and go towards Julian again. Such a close race they had yesterday, so I expect Julian's going to want to make sure that he wins this race and doesn't lose it by inches over the line like he did yesterday.
Well, let's see what the gap is. It was 2.2 seconds between first and second at the end of lap number 2. The end of lap number 3, the charging Mark Walker with white helmet with the cross of St George over the top is now up into second place instead of Ben Collings. What is the gap to race leader Julian Majoub? Just waiting for that to come on the screen. 2.5 seconds, 2 laps to claw it in. He can do this. He just banged in the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he has. This is the tyre coming off, apparently.
Off the Oakland Romano, presumably.
Yeah.
Could be. Oh, of all the places to lose it, going into Woodcote, and of course it's the outside tyre.
Yeah, it's not going to be the most comfortable ride, but I don't know if they've pulled in, or like you said, it might still be actually okay going round just without it. But back to the battle for the lead now. I mean, yeah, it's fantastic. The gap is already visibly, you can see, is closed now as Mark Walker charging down that straight.
But the absolute point is as the fastest part of the circuit for Mark Walker in the second place, Darracq is out of Lavant and down that long straight to Woodcote. They haven't got there yet. They're just going through the dip after St Mary's, and then a car that just warms the cockles of everybody's heart. The beat of Turin, almost 2 meters from base to tip. And it is super powerful, but actually, to be honest, he's outgunned. 28-litre engine. Yes, I did say that, but it still makes me smile.
It is a remarkable machine. Everybody, when they see it, they just can't quite believe how enormous it is, how tall it is, and narrow it looks. But this is all part of the development. They went for bigger and bigger engines initially. A lot of these cars that you've got here have got engines from aircraft from the First World War, because that's what they then fitted them into cars to try and make them go faster. Then they learned that perhaps reducing the engine size, lightening things up, that actually improved the driving ability. But it's wonderful to see machinery like this. This was a car rebuilt not so many years ago now. A lot of work putting it back together. Wonderful to see it running.
Yeah, and tucked in behind it, another car that really doesn't have a lot of bodywork is the Moors. And again, Ben, we were looking at these cars when they were stationary. Just the ability to see so many of the moving parts doing what they need to do. And Charlie Martin driving that very well indeed, just at the tail of the top 10. But the gap between first and second was down to 1.4 seconds as they started the final lap. It's a question, surely, not when, but where will the move come from? Mark Walker giving chase in the Darracq, Julian Majoub. They've had some fantastic racing, and the margin between them at the end yesterday was 0.3 of a second. Which way round's it going to be today?
It's going to be close, Alex. Do you think it's going to come down to that last line again?
I think it is. I really do. Julian just made a slight error, I felt personally, when he came out the exit of the chicane yesterday, and he just doesn't have the grunt down the straight, so he needs to try and make sure he's nice and tidy through these final section of corners where he's maybe a little bit stronger than Mark. But here we go. You will see the gap close down now with a very long straight coming up after Lavant corner.
Right, here we go. Important entry. Get the braking right. Get onto the power early. But that's exactly what Mark Walker here on the Darracq is going to be trying to do just as much. This 1905 machine is still going to be challenging for the victory, if at all possible, up against the 1916 Sunbeam Indianapolis. And here he comes. Here he comes. Look, he's done it again.
OK, just wait until they get to start the braking point. They're different braking points. The Sunbeam in second place will brake later. You can see he's gaining. But who's going to turn into Woodcote first? We had this last time, but don't forget last time, even though he led out of the chicane, Julian Majoub did not win the race. Can lightning strike twice?
This is going to be tight all the way, but it was out of the chicane that it went wrong for Julian yesterday. He knows that that car's right behind him again. Can Mark Walker do what he did yesterday and just get the speed out of the chicane? Or is Julian going to hold on? I think Julian might hold on this time.
It's going to be close.
It is going to be close. Oh, he's done it again.
Bumping up and down in his seat like a kart racer, and he just got enough of that power down onto terra firma. That was epic. Oh, my heart goes out to Julian Majoub. He knew it was coming, but surely today he thought he had it in the bag.
It's all about where the start-finish line is, Alice. If it was a bit earlier on the grid here, then he would have won it, Julian, but in the end it went to Mark Walker again.
Yeah, you can see a sigh of relief from Mark. He's like, I gave it everything. There's still battles raging on down the field.
Yeah, that's lovely to see. Here's the big Fiat fighting away just inside the top 10, running in 8th place at the moment, and under a little bit of pressure, it is to be said, from the number 12 of Charlie Martin. That's the Moors GP with the Curtis Aero engine. But I think the Fiat is just about going to be able to hold on here for 8th place. A little group of cars all together as they come across the line. Wonderful to see these Edwardian machines racing hard around the Goodwood circuit, and what a finish once again, like yesterday.